The circle of fifths is an essential diagram that organizes all 12 of the unique chromatic notes in music in order of ascending perfect fifths and descending perfect fourths in the clockwise direction like this, but also in order of descending perfect fifths and ascending perfect fourths in the counterclockwise direction, like so. The importance of the circle of fifths in music is massive, especially with its role in understanding how we organize key signatures and other related topics. But in this video, we'll focus more on some neat areas where we see the circle of fifths in harmony, starting with a detailed look at harmonic progressions that ascend and descend through the circle of fifths. And then we'll finish off with a really cool theory from Collier regarding the emergence of major and minor chords in the diagram. With that said, let's get started on the topic of progressions that incorporate sequences with the circle of fifths, starting with a brilliant excerpt from J.S. Bach. At around the fifth measure of Johann Sebastian Bach's Prelude No. 2 in C minor from Book 1 of the Well-Tempered Clavier, we see one of the most rich harmonic instances of the circle of fifths, with the descending fifth sequence being used to take us on a journey from the tonic key of C minor to the relative major E flat. Let's take a look at this section. Notice that counterclockwise expedition through the circle of fifths. It's pretty cool stuff. Let's go back to the practice room and take a closer look at the chords that were used in this excerpt. Starting with the first few measures, C minor, the 1 chord, F minor, the 4 chord, B diminished 7, the 7th diminished chord, with C pedaled in the bass, back to C minor, the 1 chord again. A flat major, the flat 6th chord. This is where it gets really interesting with the circle of fifths. D7, the 5 of 5. G minor, the 5 minor chord. C7, the 5 of 4. F minor, the 4 chord. B flat 7. Now we're beginning to modulate into E flat major. E flat major, our 1 chord. A flat major, the 4 chord. Going into B flat 7, back to E flat major. Within this progression, we see the root notes of the chords moving down the circle of fifths, a pattern that lends itself to some of the most iconic and great sounding harmonic movement. But that's not all that makes excerpts like this so great. On a deeper level of analysis, we see amazing sequential usage of inversions and voice leading throughout the progression. Let's take a look at the inversions of the chords used in this sequence, and then explore the intricacies and the voice leading of the chords with more detail. Now, this is really cool. We go to A flat major, the flat 6 chord, with C kept in the bass, first inversion, the 3rd is in the bass. Then we navigate over to D7, C is still kept in the bass, so it's 3rd inversion. G minor, we see that B flat is in the bass, which makes it 1st inversion, the 3rd is in the bass again. C7 with B flat in the bass, that's the 7th in the bass, 3rd inversion again. Then we go to F minor, 1st inversion, B flat 7, 3rd inversion. Then we go to E flat and 1st inversion. So we have a chain alternating between 1st and 3rd inversions. Let's hear that again, starting on A flat major. So we have this notable pattern where we alternate between 1st inversion tonic function chords, which are more stable sounding, and 3rd inversion dominant function chords, which are less stable and want to resolve. Let's take a closer look at the structure of these unstable dominant chords, and see how the chords are connected together through voice leading, to fully understand the importance of the dominant chords in these kind of progressions. One of the most fascinating properties of dominant 7th chords that lends itself so well to descending 5th progressions like this one is best seen in the behavior of the 3rds and 7ths of the chords and where they resolve during voice leading. In the D7 chord from measure 6 for instance, if you look at the 3rd F sharp shown here in the alto voice and the 7th C shown in the bass, we see the highly dissonant interval of a tritone that has a strong tendency to resolve somewhere. In the case of our piece, the tritone is resolved outwards to a consonant major 6th, with F sharp moving a half step up to G, and C moving a whole step down to B flat. That makes a very smooth connection into the next chord, G minor, a 5th down in the sequence. Now looking at the transition to the next chord, C7, we see that B flat, the minor 3rd of the G minor chord, stays put in the bass, becoming the minor 7th of the C7 chord, while G, the root of G minor, moves down to E natural, the major 3rd of C7, creating yet another tritone between B flat and E natural that's resolved in the same way to the chord F minor. This repeating pattern of resolution and tension in the 3rds and 7ths of the chords as the harmony travels down in 5ths really allows us to appreciate this rich progression. This descending circle of 5ths progression that we've been looking at, which is often just called the circle of 5ths progression, is very versatile and has been unbelievably popular in nearly all genres of music since the Baroque era nearly 400 years ago. We often see several popular shorter progressions like 2-5-1s and 3-6-2-5-1s that are directly related to this progression. These progressions aren't restricted to descending through the circle of 5ths, however. We also see progressions that ascend in 5ths and travel clockwise through the circle of 5ths. We don't see these progressions as much, but a great contemporary example of an ascending 5th sequence is in the main chords of Hey Joe, a song by Billy Roberts with awesome covers from Jimi Hendrix, Brad Mehldau, and many more musicians. Here are the chords from the song in E major. Comparing the previous descending progression to our new ascending one, we can imagine the descending progressions to be a series of authentic cadences, which are cadences marked by continuous dominant or 5-1 motion, while the ascending progressions can be seen as a similar series of what are called subdominant or plagal cadences, where there's subdominant or 4-1 movement happening. There's definitely a notable difference in the feeling evoked by both progressions. Many may perceive ascending 5th progressions to generally be brighter sounding than those that descend in 5ths. The last topic for this video is a theory I recently heard Jacob Collier talking about in a masterclass he did in Paris, with a link in the description. And it's in my opinion one of the most fascinating concepts in music theory, so please prepare yourself. He begins with the following conjecture. All major chords are 5ths and all minor chords are 4ths, if you extend them properly. We can visualize what he means here really well by vertically stacking the first 6 clockwise notes in the circle of 5ths, starting on C, and treating the structure as a single chord, with C as the bass in this case. Analyzing each note above C from bottom to top, we would have the root C, the 5th G, the major 9th D, the major 13th A, the major 3rd E, the major 7th B, and the sharp 11th F sharp in order. Looking at this entire chord as a whole, we can more clearly view this as the extremely bright chord of C major 7 with tensions 9, sharp 11, and 13, which is one of the brightest sounding chords that we often use. This insight becomes even more fascinating when we do the same thing with extended 4ths, the counterclockwise interval. Here we have the same root C, the 4th F, which I'll actually call the 11th because we'll treat it as a tension later, the minor 7th B flat, the minor 3rd E flat, the flat 13th A flat, the flat 9th D flat, and the flat 5th G flat. This chord gives us what we can interpret as C minor 7 flat 5, with tensions flat 9, 11, and flat 13. This is definitely one of the more dark sounding chords that we can see. Let's listen to both of these chords again. Jacob Collier regards these two chords as opposite sounds, and talks about viewing the chords as major and minor chords in their most pure and unbiased form. You might have noticed something else pretty interesting about these chords though. Let's look at the major chord first. If I shift all of the notes in the major chord within an octave and then make a scale out of it, this gives us a well-known scale, C Lydian, the brightest of the 7 modes of the major scale. Not to mention, if you repeat the same process with the minor chord, we'll get Locrian, which is the darkest mode of the major scale. This is some pretty mind-blowing stuff. To see the structures of what seem to be ultimate major and minor sounds emerge from stacking fifths and fourths is a really powerful idea, and it's one that can encourage a more free way of thinking about some topics in music theory. In this video, we took an in-depth look at some of the harmonic elements of the circle of fifths, which can really allow us to appreciate the intricacies and applications that this incredible diagram has to offer us. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if there's any questions in the comments, and have a great day.